Hello, welcome everyone to our presentation. This is myself, Dr. Sreejith, and I will be presenting our case on behalf of our colleague, Dr. Supriya as well. Okay, so our case title, as you can see, is Promoting Academic Integrity, a Tale of Two Case Studies. So basically in this presentation, we'll be looking at two cases uh, from our own experience and what we did in trying to promote academic integrity. Yeah, as you can see, there are several strategies being used, and there's no one right or wrong strategy in terms of combating academic dishonesty. But at least one thing we are sure that the students cannot think out of the box. But we as academics, we need to think out of the box and how we can combat academic dishonesty. As you know, there are several definitions of academic integrity, as you can see from the slides. Uh, but ultimately, all of them talks about integrity, talk about intellectual honesty, integrity. So this integrity is a central part of this, right? So we need to promote academic integrity and to achieve the highest standards possible. So we should discourage students using other people's ideas as part of their arguments. They should make their own choice and it should reflect integrity, and they should be responsible for what they are presenting, right? So this is the whole idea of academic integrity. So you can see there are like several pillars of academic integrity, and these are some of the key pillars of academic integrity. You're talking about trust, respect, courage, fairness, responsibility. These are the key pillars of academic integrity. But how easy said than done? How we can impart these, at students? We're talking about undergraduate students, we have been talking about postgraduate students. So the two case studies that we're going to discuss is actually at a postgraduate level. So these are students who are matured, but at the same time we need to ensure that the same things applies to them as well. Yeah, some of the key challenges that we face as academics, one thing is, the main thing I'm sure you would agree with me, is plagiarism. Then we obviously have cheating in exams, fabrication or falsification. The students use sometimes even fake research or use some others' works, get ideas without giving them credit, uh, come up with numbers. Uh, Sometimes they use multiple submission. They would submitted in one coursework in one of the other modules, and they would use the same in other. They would have collusion with others, or they could use paper mills or ghost writing, and some of them would just use free writing, especially in group works, and which we're going to touch up later on. Yeah, so this is the overall context of our study, right? So we're going to define the problem first, the strategies that we used, the solutions, and the benefits, the challenges that we face, and how do we measure success for both the case studies, right? So I'll explain the first context, or the first one, which actually for my colleague, this is from her case study, and we worked this together. So we were part of a group that we were trying to help each other, based on our mutual experience. So these case studies, although it sounds different, so it was very integral to both of us. So we were constantly sharing with each other on how we can promote this. So in the first case study, so my colleague, she faced an issue, starts with this email. So it says one student, so she said it's a group work, and that some of the members are not contributing. Yeah, or one members are not getting enough opportunity, so we don't know who is correct or who is wrong, right? Some of the group members is saying that person didn't do any work, and this person is saying not given the opportunity to do work. So is it free riding, or is it an issue? But at least we need to make sure that in a group everyone contribute equally. So this is one of the challenge, right? So this is even we call it as social laughing in group task. And uh, if you haven't heard about this, there is a famous Ringelmann experiment, or the rope pulling experiment, where you can see as number of group members increase, we don't get the expected results or the effort from them, as some of them would do social laughing, which means a tendency to spend less effort. when working collectively. Yeah. All right, so this is a concern, and this has been reported in other studies as well. So significant concern for academics in higher education is social loafing. Yeah. So we're gonna look at how we have addressed this. Yeah. So and this is just some of the references. Some of the issues of social loafing include group fear, unclear expectations, lower confidence, coordination issues. Some of these are postgraduate students, they are working, so they cannot coordinate with each other. So there are many reasons for social loafing, but still, we should not promote this. The second coursework, or the second case study, which involved in one of my modules, the supply chain module, there were two assessments, both were summative assessment, they have to present at the end. But both were individual courseworks, but only thing was there was no formative assessments, only it was two summative assessments. So I don't know exactly like whether students were really doing their work or someone helping them at the end. So was no constant interaction with the students. Students were not submitting draft on time, so I don't know how they are progressing with their coursework. So they just submit at the end. So I want to make sure that somehow I need to develop some formative assessments that actually can address some of the issues of academic integrity. Yeah, relatively low academic performance, and some cases there were relatively high level of similarity index or in the Turnitin submissions. So for both the cases, we applied something called an action research method, an action research approach, where we start with the problem, then we develop possible solutions. So myself, my colleague, and there were also 3-4 colleagues, we formed a action research group, or we call it action sets, and we met like once every month to address to discuss the issues and try some solution, and whether it works, then we implement this, and then we look for new problems. So this is the 5-stage one, and the reference is here. It's a very famous action research approach that has been in the literature. So developing possible solutions, so we used the review of literature, we looked at the feedback from action learning sets, and we also did informal interviews with colleagues. Yeah, so in the first one, so one of the strategies was obviously to remove fear, communicating realistic expectation, and importantly making the individual outputs identifiable. So making the individual outputs identifiable to a great extent solve the issue of social loafing, because every student know that they need to show their output, their contribution. And what was some of the thing that we used to avoid this is formative tasks were given to students to remove group fear, so they can come out and talk about the issues. They were asked to they were given online learning blocks, and also splitting the assignments into a small sequence of tasks, each with a deadline, them to provide for this, like what was your issue, what was your contribution. So there was a small percentage of marks being associated with it, like 5%, but they have to write 4 blocks saying how they have progressed, what was their personal contribution. Similarly, we also said to avoid this group fear, we developed some formative group tasks where they, as a group, they have to come to the class and they have to do some group work so that they mix well with the colleagues and they know each other, so they feel more comfortable interacting with colleagues. So this is some of the evidence, the picture from the formative assessment that we did. But students really gel well together, and the bond is formed between the groups. Yeah, and other one is using electronic means. We use Dropbox, we use Google Docs, Soho Docs. So students can upload their contributions, what they did, so that we can easily identify, the individual contributions of the students in their groups. Yeah, you can see the right, and we found that even the average marks results gone up for the students. Right. So, and we also looked at some of the qualitative feedbacks, anecdotal evidence, module feedback survey. It all showed that the strategy worked, and the group performance actually went up. Yeah, but there's a lot of benefits from this. The work standards have improved. The learning environment, the coordination among students have improved. But as you said, it's more work for teachers, for academics. We need to manage them. Also, we need to tell students to do more work because they have to upload, they need to mention, they have to write blogs which they are not graded for. So we are talking about postgraduate students, working students. So this may not go well with some of the students, but we have to implement this, and every student has to do this. Yeah. So there is some challenges, but the benefits definitely outweigh the. So in the second case, as I said, there were only 2 summative assessments and there was no way to track the student progresses. So again, what we did is we developed some formative assessments which was not part of the module. So what we did is we integrated this at the start itself. So we put this in the module handbook that they have to do these as mandatory, these formative assessments, although it's not graded. We put this mandatory as their formative assessment. Well, students have to complete again at least 4 reflective blocks in their term to show how they are progressing. So what are the reflection in terms of their coursework. And there was an online week because one of the challenges with individual report submission is there is no group work. So what we did is we did an online week where students can interact with each other. So they have to post and students have to repost or they have to reply to each post. So we kind of developed a collaboration, and also we developed a formative presentation. So students have to show up and have to tell how they are progressing with their coursework. So this is and this also helps them to give feedback to students, and they would be able to incorporate this feedback and develop good report at the end. So this also was a check to see how they are progressing, whether they know exactly what they are presenting. And we also have in-class group activities just to check the students' knowledge and just to ensure that they are part of this. Because especially with summative assessments at the end, students tend to just say, okay, we don't need to attend classes, we just need to submit the assessment at the end, that's it. But we need to make sure they are constantly engaged with. Did it work? Yes. There is considerable evidence that it worked for me in this module. The attendance participation has increased, the quality of work submitted has increased, the module feedback survey, the qualitative comments, it really increased. One of the quantitative evidence is 141 blog posts have been created from a class size of 21. So 141 blogs have been received, so which was more than the 4 required blogs. Some students were putting 6-7 blogs because they were so engaged. They actually like writing blogs, then they get reply for their blogs, and the academic performance increased, number of distinction and first class increased, and reduction in similarity percentage. So the more you put effort in this, the results was showing. So some of the comments from the online blogs, so they say that, the draft feedback was very helpful. I'm less stressful now. A lot of good comments, right? So overall, did it work? Yes, the answer is yes, it did work. So moving forward, so what we plan to do is to look at this, some of the success factors, some of the challenges, and how we can address this. But both the case study shows that there is a way we can combat, and formative assessment in particular is a very important tool in combating academic dishonesty. So having more formative assessments would help us track student progress and would definitely help us to see how they are progressing so that we don't get surprised at the end. So we don't suddenly get a fantastic submission where we know we have tracked the student progress, how they have performed, and suddenly then we would know whether it's their own submission or not their own submission. And in group work, we can also avoid social laughing. We would ensure everyone presents this one. Okay. So I think that's it. So I hope you would enjoy this presentation. And if anything, you have my email, you can be in touch with me. But I wish you all a fantastic conference, a virtual conference, and hope we will get through this difficult time sooner than later. Thank you very much.